Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're wading into family court, but specifically like how to actually file a motion.
hmm
And, it's something I think a lot of people, when they're looking at their notes, they're just like, how do I even begin? And you're looking for a clear path, right?
Yeah. Family court is one of those things very personal, and the stakes are just so high. People, I think understandably, they feel lost.
That's where the deep dive comes in. We're going a little beyond the basics today. We're going to assume you at least kind of know what a motion is, broadly speaking.
Yeah.
But we want to unpack why each step is important. And maybe we'll find some surprising things as we go. So to kick things off, like in the world of family court, what are we really talking about when we say filing a motion? Because the source material calls it a formal request, but it feels like, it's got to be more than just raising your hand and saying, "Excuse me, Your Honor, can I?"
Right, exactly. Think of it more like this. You're making an argument, like you're presenting something to the court. You have to say, this is what I want you to do, but also this is the legal reason you should do it.
Okay, so less about just saying what you want, more like building a case, legally speaking.
Exactly. Like, imagine your work schedule changes and you need to adjust your custody agreement. You can't just be like, hey, can I have the kids more now? You have to show why this change to the schedule is important for everyone, especially for the kids, right?
And that's where picking the right kind of motion comes in, which the source really highlights.
Oh, for sure. It's not like one motion fits all or anything. There are emergency motions, temporary ones, motions to change things. Each one has a purpose.
Right. You don't use a sledgehammer when you need a scalpel.
Exactly. And honestly, a lot of people get scared here. They think judges hate it when you try to, learn the legal stuff. But it shows you're taking it seriously. You're invested in a good outcome.
That's such a good point. I never thought of it like that. So before we even file anything, we have to know what kind of motion is the right fit for our situation and what legal grounds we have to even ask. Now, the source gives us a step-by-step, which is great. And the first step is knowing what you want, which, right. But why is that so important in this context specifically?
Okay, think of it like planning a road trip. You wouldn't just start driving. You have to know your destination first.
That's right.
To plan your route.
Exactly. And here, in family court, you're defining the what. I want the custody arrangement changed. Sure, but how?
So it's like, I'm looking to modify the custody agreement to reflect X, Y, and Z, that kind of thing.
Exactly. You're speaking the court's language.
Okay, so we know our goal, we know what kind of motion we need. What's next?
Now comes the paperwork. The source calls them motion documents. And this is where people freak out a little.
Because it's real now, right? It's not just an idea in your head. You got to actually write it down. Yeah, exactly. But it's not as scary as it seems. Think of it like you're writing a really important email, You state what you want, clearly, and then you back it up.
Okay, so walk us through these motion documents. What are we even looking at here? The source mentions the notice of motion first.
Right, so this is like your official heads up to the court and to the other side saying, here's what I'm asking for. Think of it like the title of a book short, to the point, and it tells you what's coming.
So no burying the lid.
Exactly. Plus, you put the important details in there, like when the court date is.
So everyone's literally on the same page. Speaking of pages, we also have the affidavit or declaration. That sounds intense, like very official.
Yeah, it's where you really lay out your argument with facts and you swear it's all true. Remember how we talked about legal basis for your request? Here's where you back it up with proof.
What kind of things are we talking about here for our listener?
Anything relevant. Dates, times, emails, text messages even. If it supports what you're saying, include it and be organized, clear.
And last, we have the memorandum of law. Is that like required every time?
It depends, really. If your case hinges on specific laws, legal precedents, then yeah, this is where you get into that.
Okay, so it's like adding footnotes to your argument, giving the judge all the legal backup they need. So to recap, we've got our goal, our type of motion, and we're gathering our documents to make sure our argument is strong. That's a lot.
It is, but you don't want to rush this part. Take your time, make sure it's solid. A judge can tell if you're just trying to get it over with.
So quality over speed, got it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And once that's all ready, then you can actually file.
Which brings us to the exciting conclusion of part one. Don't worry, we'll be back to talk about what happens next, from serving the other party to, the actual court hearing, all that fun stuff. But for now, we'll leave you with that to ponder. And we're back for more of the deep dive. So last time we left off, we had this stack of, perfectly crafted legal documents ready to go. But before we do anything with them, the source mentions this whole other thing, serving the other party.
Right. Right, and this is important. Serving basically means making sure the other side gets a copy of what you filed. It's about making sure everything's fair, everyone's in the loop.
So you can't just, like, sneak attack him with a lawsuit.
Well, yeah, that's the gist of it. Imagine if someone just sprung some big change on you out of nowhere. Wouldn't it be cool, right?
Definitely not. So there are, like, rules about how you actually do this serving
Oh,
thing.
yeah. There are procedures. Usually you get someone else to deliver the documents, like a process server. They make sure it gets there officially. Some courts even let you do it through certified mail. But the point is, you got to follow the rules exactly, or else you could slow things down or even mess up your whole case.
Wow. Okay, so even though it seems like a small detail, it's super important. Everything has to be done by the book.
Exactly. And once that's taken care of, then we can talk about the main event, the hearing.
This is where it all goes down, right?
Right.
What can our listener expect, especially if they've never actually been to court before?
Well, first of all, remember it's not like TV. It's formal, sure. But the goal is to be clear and respectful, not to, put on a show.
Right. Less law and order, more like, let's all be reasonable adults here.
Exactly. That's why being prepared is so important. Know your case inside and out, have all your evidence organized, even practice what you're going to say. Not word for word, but just to get comfortable with the material.
Practice makes perfect, as they say.
Right. You want to project confidence, composure, and there are a few things to keep in mind about courtroom etiquette, like be on time. Showing up late looks really bad. It's disrespectful to the judge and everyone else.
I imagine the vibe in a courtroom is a little different from, say, a coffee shop.
You got it. So dress appropriately, business casual at least. You want to show respect for the process.
And when it's your turn to speak, how do you actually, like, talk to the judge?
Always call them Your Honor. And keep it short and sweet. Stick to the facts. Don't interrupt, even if you disagree.
Okay, so no shouting matches.
No, definitely not. The hearing is your chance to say what you need to say and to answer the judge's questions.
So what about the other side? What if things are tense between you?
Yeah, that's tough, especially in family court where feelings run high. The key is to stay professional no matter what. Don't say anything disrespectful, even if they do.
So it's really about focusing on the legal issue, not letting personal stuff get in the way.
Right, the judge is there to make sure it's a fair fight, so to speak.
And speaking of fairness, the source also mentions these common misconceptions about family court that I think are really interesting.
Yeah, misconceptions can really trip people up. One big one is this idea that family court is about winning or losing.
Like it's a game or something.
Exactly. It's easy to fall into that trap, but it's not about that. Family court should be about finding the best solution for everyone, especially the kids.
Right, it's about moving forward, not getting revenge.
Exactly.
What other misconceptions come up a lot?
Oh, another big one is that the mother always wins custody automatically. That might have been true a long time ago, but not anymore. These days, courts just want to know what's best for the child, period.
So we're getting away from those old stereotypes, which is good.
Definitely.
Any others we should mention?
One more is that family court always takes forever. And yeah, some cases can drag on, but a lot of times things can be resolved pretty quickly, especially if everyone can stay calm and work together.
So it doesn't have to be a years-long battle.
Not at all. It's always worth trying to find common ground.
Makes it, I mean, who wants to spend all that time and money in court?
Nobody.
So we've talked about the emotion side of things, the practical steps, even some of the myths people believe. It's a lot to process.
It really is, but hopefully our listener is starting to see the bigger picture.
But wait, there's more. When we come back, we'll dive into what happens after the hearing, the waiting game for the judge's decision, and some final empowering takeaways. Stay tuned.
And we're back for the final part of our deep dive into, well, the wild world of family court motions. We've covered a lot of ground, from the nitty-gritty of the paperwork to the whole emotional roller coaster of it all.
That's a lot.
But of course, nothing's really final until, the judge makes their decision.
Exactly. And that waiting period after the hearing can be brutal.
Oh, I bet. You're finally done with the hearing itself, which is a relief, but then you're like, wait, now I have to wait for the verdict.
Yeah, it's like waiting for your exam results, you know.
The worst.
Yeah.
So what's the best way to handle that waiting game? Because part of me wants to just bury my head in the sand and pretend it's not happening.
I get it, but honestly, staying busy is key. The court will let you know their decision eventually. So in the meantime, focus on what you can control, Manage your stress, lean on your support system.
Easier said than done sometimes, but so important. It really is.
Now, before we wrap up our deep dive completely, I wanted to circle back to something you said earlier about presenting your case effectively. Because it's not just about the facts, right? It's about how you present them.
100%. Think of it like you're telling a story. You want the judge to understand your perspective, to see how everything connects.
So it's like storytelling, but with legal documents.
Exactly. And just like a good story, clarity is key.
So no using like 20 words when 5 will do.
Exactly. Use plain language, avoid jargon.
Basically, write like you talk, unless you normally talk in legal jargon, I guess.
Right. And be organized.
Give it some structure, like an essay. Right. You have your intro, your supporting points, your conclusion.
Exactly. Make it easy for the judge to follow your logic.
And of course, you need the evidence to back it all up.
Oh, absolutely. Don't just tell the judge what you think happened. Show them.
So documents, witnesses, that kind of thing.
Exactly. The more proof you have, the stronger your case.
Are there, like, common mistakes people make that can actually weaken their case? Things to avoid?
Oh, for sure. One big one is getting too emotional. I know it's hard. These cases are personal, but you have to stay calm, stick to the facts.
So no crying in family court.
Let's just say it's not going to help your case.
Fair enough. What else?
Don't exaggerate. It might be tempting to, make things sound better than they are, but honesty is key, trust me.
Because if you get caught in a lie, it's all over.
Exactly.
So,
Let's see. Oh. Don't attack the other person, even if they're in the wrong.
so no matter how much they might deserve it.
Especially then.
Got it.
Focus on the issue at hand and keep it respectful.
So deep breaths, stick to the facts, and remember the big picture.
Exactly. It's about finding a solution that works for everyone, especially the kids.
This has been, wow, a real crash course in family court motions. We've gotten so much.
Hopefully it's been helpful for your listeners.
I think so. I mean, I've learned a lot.
Yeah.
But of course, every case is different.
Uh-huh.
So if you're dealing with this in real life, definitely talk to a lawyer. Don't just take our word for it.
Exactly. We're not giving legal advice here.
But we are giving you a whole lot of information to digest and hopefully some peace of mind. Knowing what to expect can make all the difference.
Absolutely.
So that's it for this deep dive into family court motions. We'll see you next time for another deep dive into something equally fascinating. Until then, take care.